Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about the teacher work sample. Most of this is just a reminder for you, and then I'm going to go into more detail about the assessment piece of the teacher work sample. So overview of the teacher work sample, it's a unit plan with your lessons. Hopefully you already know what your big idea is. I know the middle school and high school folks have actually been developing lesson plans this semester. You're going to administer a pre-test and a post-test. You actually can't start teaching your lesson plans until you've given that pre-test to your students. You can't give your pre-test until you've gotten your pre-test approved by your supervisor. So this is why we have those timelines for you to turn that stuff in. So your supervisor has time to give you feedback. You're going to give your pre-test. You're going to teach your lesson plans, 10 lesson plans for elementary, 15 for middle and high, and K-12. And you're going to videotape each of those lesson plans for your montage, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. You're also going to reflect on your lesson plan each day. So when you submit your lesson plans initially in January or in December, there won't be a reflection piece, obviously, because you won't have taught it yet. But when you turn in your final work sample at the end of the spring, each lesson plan will have a reflection with it. So maybe a couple paragraphs. This is what went well today. Here's what I think about it. Here's what I need to do differently tomorrow or next week based on how things went today. So a reflection for each day's lesson plan. Then once you've taught all those lesson plans, you're going to give your post-test, and then you write up an analysis of those results. We're going to look more closely at that in just a moment. You also will do an overall reflective essay on the unit. So in addition to your reflection with each day's lesson plan, you're going to write an overall reflection on the unit as a whole. What was my planning process like? How did my students respond on the pre-test and post-test? How did they respond to my lessons? What unexpected thing happened? What went really well? If I could teach this unit again, what would I do differently? That'll be an overall essay to reflect on the entire unit plan. And then you'll get all that stuff put together, all your lessons, reflections, your assessment data, your reflective essay, all that stuff together, and that will be submitted for licensure to TaskStream. So let's talk a little bit more about some of the specific pieces there. So evidence 3 and 5 are your work sample evidences. And this list will show you what belongs in each evidence when you upload this stuff. You can also see this when you go to TaskStream. So when you click on evidence 3, and you click description, I think is a button. For evidence 3, it'll list all the pieces that have to be in evidence 3. And when you open evidence 5 on TaskStream, it'll list all the pieces that have to be there. So evidence 3 will have your table of contents, which just shows where all the pieces are. So you're going to put all this together. It's going to be one big document from all the way at the beginning, your setting and your rationale, all your lesson plans, your assessments, your analysis of your assessment results, your essay, all that's going to be in one big document. You'll have a table of contents to show your supervisor where to find everything. And that's also really important for when we send these off to the state. Somebody at the state level may be evaluating your work sample, and they need to be able to quickly find the pieces that they're looking for. You'll have your description of the setting. That goes in evidence 3 and evidence 5, and your rationale goes in evidence 3 and evidence 5. The reason for that is you may have 2 different folks at the state level who are evaluating your evidence 3 and your evidence 5, and they need to see your setting and your rationale. So your rationale is, why are you teaching this unit? It's in the Common Core, or it's in my essential standards. This is the pacing for our curriculum, and this is where we are right now. So that goes in both places, evidence 3 and 5. Then in evidence 3, you'll have your specific goals and outcomes, all your lesson plans, and any materials that go with your lesson plans. They all go in evidence 3. So if you have any handouts or other kinds of materials for your lesson plans, that's an evidence 3 piece. And then any appendices or references you might have used would be in evidence 3 as well. And your video montage, which, again, we're going to talk about in just a moment. Your video montage is part of evidence 3 as well. So evidence 3 is all about the teaching of your work sample. And evidence 5 is all about assessment. It's the assessment part of your work sample. So evidence 5, again, you'll have your setting and your rationale. Then you'll actually include your assessment. So whatever your assessment looks like, you're going to upload your assessment as evidence 5. and you'll upload your assessment analysis. So that's where you analyze the data you collected. I'm going to show you what that might look like in just a moment. And then that overall essay, that's a reflection on your unit, is part of Evidence 5 as well. Again, you can see this list in task stream for Evidence 5 and Evidence 3. Okay, one other piece of the student teaching experience is this coaching cycle, which you have a handout up on your table. If you don't, Miss Vandy has some extras. The purpose of this coaching cycle is to get you into the habit of reflecting on your practice and purposefully seeking to improve your practice. So the idea behind the coaching cycle is that you are looking for things that you're doing well and looking for things that aren't going so well, and you're working to improve those areas. This is a collaborative process. You'll be working closely with your cooperating teacher and your supervisor for the coaching cycle. But this coaching process is driven by you, so you have to be the one that's really pushing this thing forward. Your supervisor is not going to be the one to say, hey, you have to do your coaching cycle next week, so you need to be driving the train here. What you'll do is you're going to go through this process 3 times throughout the 15 weeks. And you're going to decide when those 3 times are. And you probably should start the first one, fairly soon once you start picking things up. What you'll do for each of the cycles is identify what's going well. So what's really going well for you in your student teaching. And this is a great place to get some feedback. So ask your cooperating teacher and ask your university supervisor, what are my strengths? What do you think is going well? And you're going to list those there on your form. You can see that goes up at the top. And then you're going to say, okay, so what am I struggling with right now? You may want to ask your supervisor again and your cooperating teacher for feedback, but chances are you're going to kind of know, I'm really struggling with this thing right now. It could be, some students, you're having trouble with this one group of students, keeping them engaged. Maybe your transitions are crazy and you're having trouble with that. It could be teaching some content, you're really struggling with that. Whatever it is, whatever that thing is, you're going to list that on your plan, and then you're going to brainstorm some ways you can grow in that area. This is especially the place where you need to get some ideas from your cooperating teacher and your supervisor, because if you're struggling with transitions, for example, you don't maybe have any transition strategy, so you need to talk with somebody. Talk with your supervisor or your teacher. What can I try? The transition time is not going well. Or so-and-so on this side of the room, he's just not engaged. I can't keep him on task. What can I do? So you're going to brainstorm some ideas and list those there on the top part of your coaching plan. And you're also going to decide, how can I collect data to see that these strategies are working? So let's say your cooperating teacher gives you a transition strategy, and you're like, okay, next week I'm going to use this every day for my transitions. So then you need some way to collect data to show that it's working or not working. And your cooperating teacher can help you with that data collection, because you're going to be busy teaching. So this would be a great job to give your cooperating teacher. Can you, do a timer every day during transitions and just see if it's getting shorter? Or, make a tally every time this kid gets off task, and just have your cooperating teacher help you with that data piece, since you're going to be teaching full-time, and they can be really focused on helping you get the data you need. And then at the end of the week, or maybe you want to do this cycle for 2 weeks, that's really up to you. Then you'll sit down and look at that data and see, did this strategy work, or did it not? And then at the end of that time period, you're going to reflect on that and then determine what to do with your next cycle. So you're going to go through this cycle 3 times. And your second cycle might be the same idea. It might be the same difficulty. So if the transition thing didn't work, or the strategies for this kid didn't get him on task, you may want to try something different. So stick with that same idea, but get some new strategies to try for a week or 2 and collect data and see if this is working. Or if the data showed that it worked really well, then you're going to pick a new area to focus on for your second cycle. And then you'll go through the same cycle, brainstorming strategies, figuring out how to collect data, reflecting on the data, and then you'll do it one more time.